Welcome back to the show, DBE fam. We've got two special guests here from the team. Lauren, welcome.
Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, and Mike.
Thank you both for allowing me to come back.
So it's a unique and fun episode today. We are actually doing a recap on our launch. So we're going to do a launch debrief, just a conversation about the launch we just had. If you missed it and you weren't a part of it, well, you're going to have to wait until 2025 because we only really do launches like that once a year. And if you were a part of it, thanks so much for being a part of it. So we're going to chat a little bit about the launch. Just going backwards, gosh, I've done well over 100 launches in my digital business over the years. I mean, starting 12 years ago, I was launching $79 ebooks. And if you want to get real granular, I mean, I was launching, what are they called? Blogs every single week, and I was launching like one-on-one things. So I've done well over 100, probably closer to 200 launches. As a team, we've done probably 40, 50, 60, something like that over the past couple of years. And the one launch in particular that we really put a lot of our focus and energy and efforts on is the launch of Empower, which is our signature product. And before Empower comes DBE Live. So shout out to you if you were at DBE Live. Woohoo! We had almost 4,000 people there this year, which was so cool. And if you have no idea what we're talking about, DBE Live is a free experience that we host each year. It runs across really 2.5 weeks. It's a 3-part live. We're in a studio. We have all these bonus trainings and prizes and giveaways. And it's this really big experience. It's a whole big event and it's virtual. Yeah. So we have people from all around the world. So what we want to chat about today is our debrief of that whole kit and caboodle, which really is like many months in the making, right?
So many months in the making.
Yeah.
I think what's interesting too, like when you were just saying, we've done all these other launches and you've done launches alone, and as a team, we've done so many launches, but it's like the one we put the most effort, time, preparation, focus, planning is DBE Live Empower, and surprise, surprise, it does the best.
Yeah. Across all metrics too. So like when we say does the best, it's not just makes the most money or has the most clients come in. It's like across the board does the best. And I think the biggest thing for me, I'm just going to kick this off. This particular launch was the most fun, effortless, flowy, easy, stress-free launch we have ever had in the company. And I think that was a unanimous thing. I mean, we obviously did our launch debrief as a team and we all talked about how that was the case. So I think, Lauren, if you could kick it off, you act as launch manager. So just real quick, what does that mean?
So basically, as the launch manager from like what we've decided it is in our company, because you get to decide what these things look like in your business, is I essentially back us into the launch from start to finish. And I make sure that every step of the way, the team knows exactly where they need to be and what needs to get done so that, we're not at DBE Live and we're like, oh, it's DBE Live. What are we doing?
Yeah. When you say back us in, I mean, it was literally, so DBE Live ran in March and you had us working on stuff in November for DBE Live, which admittedly, when you're talking about that stuff on meetings and it's like my task for the week, admittedly in November, I kind of am like, really?
It actually started before that. Lauren was on me, a healthy on me, I will say. Back in like, I want to say August, September, because a big part of our launch is the affiliate program. And Lauren was, hey, checking in. Hey, where are we at with, creating new partnerships, reestablishing some of the older partnerships. And so, I mean, it even started before November, which is awesome.
Yeah, my armpits are sweating. I'm like, are we starting again?
Yes.
That's what I was going to say is that, we had our annual, which, you've heard us probably talk about these things quite a few times, and you're going to continue to hear us talk about these things because they really help the business. And so it was like our second or third year, like really having an annual with the team. And sometimes they're not always going to be so fun because you're like planning a whole year and it can feel intense or a lot, right? But the thing that I've come to realize in being a leader, and if you have someone that's an integrator on your team or a launch manager or an OBM, it's their job to kind of feel uncomfortable and push everyone forward, even though it's like you might get some like resistance. Like I compare it to being like a personal trainer in the gym. Like you're going to get resistance from your client, but you have to keep pushing them, but you can do it lovingly and you don't have to do it in like a tyrant way. and you're going to get so much more result in that. So we talked about this at our annual in November, and then it was like off to the races we went. And my goal was just to have as much completed before we went out of office for the new year, because as we all know, January is a month that just like disappears somehow. So it was essential that, you know, we finish. And there was a little pushback, like not from you two, but just other people in the team that had to do other things too. Like, I don't know. And it was like a little bit of coaching had to happen.
Yeah.
But man, I think that the biggest lesson for me is always when you get to the end and you see the end result and you're like, that was so worth it. And I will 100% be doing that again. And yes, we're 100% already going to be starting for our next launch. Another big lesson.
I think it's funny because the human brain does this, right? We know this thing is coming in February or March. We start talking about it, I mean, to your point, in August, but really like diving into some of the tasks for myself in November. And then there's like this resistance, almost like a child where you're like, I don't want to. Like, I have all this time. You think you have all this time. Like, I don't want to do that, because while I'm working on that on the back end, on the front end of the business, maybe we're doing something else. So in November, we were also getting ready. We were running our last retreat for the year for our elite mastermind gals, which meant that we were filling our mastermind for 2024. We're also like, are we going to do a Black Friday deal? And then I'm actually coaching people that are inside the programs. And so, and this is anyone in the business, right? And anyone listening to this podcast, you can resonate where it's like, my focus is on all these other things. Like the child in me is like, meh, I don't want to start working on something that's 3 months away. I don't know if any of you have like pointers here for the audience members, but like, what do you do if you have any to kind of get past that? Because I know for me, I sort of have to have like a 5-minute pity party. Like I have to allow myself the 5 minutes of whining of like, I don't want to do it. And then it's like, okay, zoom out. What is this going to do for my future self? Like, how is this going to change? And when I look at the calendar zoomed out and I go, well, if I get this done today, then I won't have to work on it during maybe the holiday break when everyone's off for 2 weeks, or I won't have to work on it when I'm actually going to be working on something else because something else is coming down the pipeline. And so when I can take a step back and be like, all right, my future self really is going to thank me. What do I need to do to get into the flow right now? And that's when we started to kind of shift my schedule around to make sure that I had the space to do some of the more creative things where it's like, you know what? I'm not taking any calls. I'm not doing any meetings on this particular day. I'm going to wake up and, you know, communicate with Mike too, because obviously we live together. It's like, babe, I'm going to wake up. I'm going downstairs, hitting the ground running, like troll mode, no makeup, maybe no bra, you know, like I'm going to the computer. I'm going to do my thing and I'll see you in a couple hours. And so for me, it's like, I have to get into that zone. I don't know if you both have anything that you would do, or if you don't deal with that. Because for me, I definitely do.
You want to go or you want me to go?
Well, so I mean, Lauren, as we already mentioned, kind of like really ensured this time around that we already talked about that we started super early, but like, I agree with you, Jess, that we still always have this tendency to be like, oh my goodness, it's 5 months away. Why are we doing XYZ? But there's a couple things I want to say about this. Number one, there were still some things that we left to almost the last minute this launch, regardless of the success. And we know that next year we're not going to do that, right? So it's interesting that as early as we started, we still left some things that we almost, like Jess, you said, oh, you throw your little pity party. Well, the pity party never ended for one particular part of the launch. And I remember you and I were doing it like 2 days before DBE Live, which there are some things that you can make changes all the way up until your launch, but things should be pretty solidified.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to mention too, which there's this like uncertainty where you have to kind of just trust that when you get things done in advance, that there's going to be this whole other world that you can kind of play in when it's go time. And that's not very specific. So I'll get a little more granular. So because we were so set up for the launch, when Lauren and I were meeting throughout the launch, we were able to like pivot during the launch. So Jess mentioned that like the launch is 2-3 weeks long, right? With open cart and DBE Live and all these things. And we're able to make decisions on the fly, and they're not decisions because like things haven't been done yet. They're actually decisions because things are done and we're like, we're hearing a lot of this from the audience, or we're seeing this, or whatever, or we're feeling, Jess is feeling this. Let's go in a different direction.
Yeah.
Right.
As opposed to like, to do it.
Yeah, you have the space to do it. And it's like with everything, when you have the space and things are organized and things are calm. And that's when like decisions can come from a place of alignment. And that's where the creativity happens. That's what I kind of felt
Yeah,
this particular launch, right? With
totally.
it being like easy,
Yeah, and
right?
like not to cut Lauren off, but that is why we always talk about structure creates freedom. It's like the structure in the launch gave you guys the freedom. Like you literally had the space, you had the capacity, the brain space, the energy space, the time space, the
But you're not
space in
going
the
to know until you
calendar.
do it.
Right.
And you almost
And
don't believe it's true.
no, of course not, because it doesn't make any sense. Because
Right.
it feels, especially for a visionary like me or like yourself, Mike and I both are visionaries. I could feel very boxed in by structure. And I know I hear that from a lot of clients. It's like, oh, well, if I plan too much, then I don't have the freedom to be creative. And it's like, no, it's actually the opposite, which I want to hear from Lauren, but also I wanted to just bring up one of the ideas Mike had during the launch, which was so cool.
I don't even remember.
We were in the
Oh.
studio doing our dry run, and Mike had this visual, this idea that before we actually went live and like started in the studio, we should put together one of those little B-rolls, kind of like they do when they have like a Netflix special for a comedian, where it's like you watch this like 3-minute clip and then the comedian like walks onto the stage, but like it actually happens in real life. And if we didn't have all of the things set in stone and done ahead of time and prepared, we wouldn't have been able to do it, because that was it the night before? It was the night before we went live and we were going to be in
But
the
it was finished,
studio
yeah.
and everything was finished. So we were able to like, okay, we were sitting around on the couch together, hanging out. We kind of like pulled clips and edited this thing together and had this little, 90-second clip. It was so epic. And it was such a cool way to start.
Yeah.
Sorry, just real quick on that. And it's one of those things where it's like more isn't better.
Mm-mm.
But when you are done and you want to add more,
Yeah.
it oftentimes can make it better, because
Yeah.
that little thing you just mentioned, it made it way better. It was more fun. It
For
was
us, at
epic.
least.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's important. Like maybe it didn't make it better for all the viewers. I think it did because they were loving it, but it made it more fun for us. And then we get to bring that energy into, like, the second I stepped on camera, it was like, oh my God, I had this epic entrance,
was
and it
cool. It
shifts
was
my whole
different.
energy. Yeah.
And I
Lauren,
was
do you
going to
have
say that
stuff?
I
Yeah.
do. And I was going to say, because like we were having fun, like that's the energy you're bringing to your audience. It's just like, it's like when you're stressed in life and you walk into a room and then someone's like, what's wrong? Like people know when you're stressed and people know when you're happy and having fun and all of that. But it doesn't mean that just because all these things doesn't mean it's easy, because I think that we've gotten trapped in this world that we think everything's supposed to feel so easy and light. And like, there's always going to be things you don't want to do, which leads me into like a couple of the things that I do when like I don't want to do things, because there's a lot of things, I would say most people's job, right? 80% of what you do is not really fun, right? 80% is like just got to get it done. And then the 20% is you really get to like enjoy or research or learn or whatever it is that like you get to do that you are creative with. And so I will say to myself, how will this feel when it's done? And then that is what motivates me to just get it done. And that's like on a regular basis, like not just during launches. And then I will just like speed through Pomodoro, slack off and get my things done. And then it's
Like
like,
your hair today.
okay, yeah,
Yeah, you put the effort in.
You're so
I did,
cute. Bubble braids.
but it was
You're like,
fast.
I don't want to do this, but you know what? I know I'm going to look great on this podcast.
Exactly. But
You
yeah,
can
I
check
mean,
Lauren
it is,
out on
right?
YouTube.
It's right? Like when you're like getting ready in the morning, when you add that little extra effort, like it's not always so fun in the moment. So that is definitely like a big one for me. Like, and when I'm pushing others and like whatever is being said, I'm just like, I just know when they have it done too, like they're going to feel that as well. And that's why like when we do anything hard in life, like at the end of it, we're like, F yeah, I did this. So
Sometimes even starting.
even starting,
You get us to start things often too, especially me. I'll speak for me. Like you
yeah,
get me to start things
yes,
sometimes when I don't want to start something. And
yes.
then like business, I feel great, but even my personal life, I feel better because I feel more accomplished.
Well, let's
Yeah.
talk about that for a second. Because for the person who doesn't have a team, I'm like, okay, what's something that somebody can do to force themselves to start? And like the first thing that comes to mind for me is giving yourself like a fake deadline.
Yeah, a fake deadline, and also like using some sort of project management system. And we talked about this at the mastermind retreat. It's like just open it up, log in, and just start adding tasks like slowly. Like if you have a launch 6 months from now, just start slowly as they come to you, because we all know that like you'll be sitting somewhere and all these things will come to you and you don't write them down. And then you get to that point, you're like, Why didn't I write that down? And
It's
it's
the
like,
elephant. It's like, I hate the phrase, but
I know,
how
me
you
too.
eat an
I
elephant.
hate it too.
We
One
have to
bite at a
redo
time.
that.
Well, fine, then how do you run a marathon? One step at a time, or whatever. You know what I mean?
That's
It's like,
better.
But just the last part of it is that Mike had touched on, that for me is also like such a huge thing, is the space and the time and the creativity that it allows. Because I've learned that when you're stressed, you make dumber decisions and you're just reactive and you're not responding. But this time around in the launch, like, we were responding, we weren't reacting to what was happening in real time. And that just felt like so different and so cool. And even though we were putting in long, hard hours, it was like, just felt so much more purposeful and like fulfilling. But the space and time that we all had to like do these fun little extra things or think about something in a different way just was like, opened up such a world where like normally like we're kind of up against the wire, and then it's like, we just got to get this done. We just got to get this done. And like, that doesn't allow for that space or that creativity, which like at the end of the day sucks, like
Yeah.
you want that, which is why like the structure creates the freedom. And it sounds so boring and routine, but like really it's not. We're routine people, and Jess will say this all the time, like about kids or dogs or whatever. It's like, we are the same way. Like, we thrive in routine, and there's a reason for that.
Yeah, which actually, go ahead.
oh, I was just gonna say, like, for the person who maybe they might be listening and thinking, well, I guess they could be thinking two different things. One, it could be, wow, 6 months isn't that long for something that's so big and important in your business. And then there's another person who could be saying, 6 months, like, I want to launch something next week. I think it's important to remember that we've kind of grown to this point where it's been call it an 8 month runway, right? And it wasn't always like that, and it doesn't have to be like that. If you're, for the person that's like, I know, Jess, you can probably articulate this better for like the newbie, but the person who's like just getting started, if you want to launch something next week or in 2 weeks or even in a month or whatever, 2 months, it's like you don't have to start planning 6 months in advance.
Yeah.
There is this like starting point. And I think going back to what we were just saying about the elephant, it prevents people from starting.
Yeah.
When they look at the big thing, I remember when we used to look at, our mentors launches and like, oh my goodness, these debriefs. And now we have similar debriefs. Or we looked at his launch, it's so complicated. But we've grown into that over a 3-year, 4-year period, right?
Yeah.
So it's I would say take the themes from what you're hearing and apply it to, hey, I want to launch this new thing, or I want to relaunch this thing that I'm already doing
Yeah.
in a month. Okay, cool. What does that look like to back into it over a month or a 2-week period?
Yeah.
Because you're still going to have the same feeling where you're like, man, I'm glad I started today instead of waiting until so.
Yeah. Well, that was the exact point that I was going to bring up. There's a lot of different types of launching, and there's different types of launches. And depending on how warm your audience is, right? Like, how hot are they and ready to buy? How much do they know about your credibility and authority? How much are they waiting for you to put something out? What's the price point of the thing? What's the investment, not just of the price, but the time? Like, is it this big 12-week course that someone's going to have to really invest a lot into? Or is it like, oh, it's an hour masterclass they can watch on their own time? There's a lot of things to take into consideration when you're launching, and things that have, smaller investments of time and money, maybe not such a big lift for people. Maybe they're a really hot audience. You could turn around and totally just launch it today. You could launch it tomorrow. And one of the reasons why we do teach that, even inside of Empower, our clients in Empower are not launching like we launch, because they don't have, first of all, majority of the time, they don't have the reps yet. They don't have the testimonials. They don't have the actual course or program built yet. They don't have the proof of concept yet. And so it's a little bit more of that kind of sloppy, I'm just going to put it out and see who bites. When someone purchases, I'm going to go create it and start making it, versus us, where we're coming up to 6.5 years or something like that Empower has existed. And we've had 1,000 clients go through and, run 19 live rounds of it. Very different. Like, we have the data to show us that, okay, if this many people come to the launch and we continue to convert at this level, we're likely going to enroll this many people. And so, yes, to your point, we've like really grown into this launch. And I think for someone listening, that could be, one, a little bit overwhelming, but then why don't you look at the other side of that coin and take it as like, how exciting to be able to have something in your business that has that sort of duplication, replication, consistency, predictability, right? Like that's what we want in our business. We want predictable, we want sustainable. That's what gives us the feeling of like certainty. So to know that it could be possible, and to Mike's point, our launch is very complex and doesn't have to
Now,
look like that. Now, so I'd love to talk for a second because context is really important. People see all these numbers. Oh my gosh, 4,000 people came to this thing. Like, how does that happen? There's a couple things that we do. So one, we've been around for a while, right? We use organic social media. So just like we teach our clients, so marketing, whether that's on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, whatever that would look like. We have an email list. So we're emailing our people there. We do bring affiliates in. So we have affiliate partners. It's strategic partnerships where they're sharing about our free program, DBE Live. And then we also do run ads. Now we don't need to talk about like full numbers on this podcast, but I'm pretty confident and comfortable saying like we didn't even spend $10,000 on ads. We were under 10,000, far under $10,000.
And for context, oh God, the math. Spent about $8,000 just and there's reasons why we run them, because they don't create the launch that we have, but they do help. But the point is like spent 8, but it's like almost 50x
right, multiple six figures,
the revenue. Yeah.
Right.
So it's like 50x. So and that's not a fair comparison to say like, you know, like if we started talking on social media, like which people do, by the way, we spent $8,000 and we 50x'd our launch, and it's just like, well, hold on, let's and to your point, Jess, we bring in organic people, and then our affiliates are a massive driver, because it's a high ticket product.
Yeah,
and it's beneficial to them and their people.
Yeah. And with a high ticket product, it's going to require people to have a little bit more like third party word of mouth stamp of approval, which is why also for us, ads don't actually convert that well, because an ad, if it's running to a cold audience member, the first time they're ever seeing me, they come into DBE Live and then we're selling them a high ticket program. They're like, I don't know anything about this girl. I just saw an ad yesterday and now she's selling me what? So the ads for us actually don't convert that well, which is one of the reasons we don't pour that much ad money into it. But I just want everyone listening to know it's like there are a lot of pieces to the puzzle when it comes to the success that you see that we have. And that's just on like the front end of the actual launch enrollment that we're talking about, right? So again, affiliates, ads, organic, email list, social media are kind of all the parts to the puzzle.
But it's the part of the launch system and they all work together. And like, that's the goal to get to. Like, we didn't run ads for God knows how long. And then, you know, you start slowly and you learn. And it's the same thing with affiliates. You start slowly and you learn. And then all of a sudden now we have this launch where what we've been doing this for 3 years now, like all these pieces,
the same launch.
This launch, yeah.
Same like pieces. And it now feels like, okay, it's all working together in this like symbiotic way. But in the beginning, it feels clunky and weird and like, oh, we're running ads, but like, now it's just like, no, this is just the machine. This is just the system. And it's like really cool to see all the pieces like working together in motion.
Yeah.
It's another example of which we're repeating the same themes over and over. This is a repetition thing again. When we first did DBE Live, which, so Jess, you mentioned that you've done what we've had, this is our 19th class of Empower.
Yeah.
So that's basically 19 launches of Empower, just to keep it simple, right? But we've done 4 DBE Lives.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks. Their memories are better than mine. So 4 DBE Lives, right? So this was the 4th DBE Live. And the first one, I don't want to say it looked different from this last one that we did, but like it was different and we've built on it. And from like where it started to where it is now, we've deleted things that we didn't like. We've said, oh, that works. And I think what's so interesting too is even the ads have changed through reps. The affiliate program has changed through reps, and not just like the inner workings of the affiliate program, who we speak to, who we reach out to. We've learned so much over I would say the last 2 launches the most, about we have a strong hypothesis on who we think would be an effective affiliate. We've had people come in with big audiences that don't have success, and we don't want that to happen, because that's not good for them. That's not good for their people. And obviously that's not good for us either, because it's kind of just, it's almost I don't want to say a waste of time because we always learn, but shame on us if we continue to move in that direction
Yeah.
and just look at people who have big audiences. We've learned that it's more about larger audience, know how to launch,
The right audience.
the right audience. Their audience is used to buying things. And one thing we also learned that this launch, which is important to mention, it's like, don't always jump to conclusions. We thought that if one of our affiliates, if their audience was used to buying low ticket, oh man, are they going to buy high ticket from us? And we demonstrated that is not the case.
Yeah.
So, but you only learn through the reps.
Yeah.
You can make as many guesses as you want, but we're not going to know until you do it. And you're going to fall on your face sometimes, which we've fallen on our face many times, but it's like, okay, so make a change, but based on what you learned, and just do it again. Don't quit. Right.
I think it's important.
Go ahead.
I think it's important too to just talk about the mindset for like one quick second, because I know for me, the business had done multiple millions in revenue before we ever started running ads. And so much of because I teach organic marketing, I don't teach ads. I had such an ego. I had such a pride behind like, look what I've built organically. I can help you do it organically as well. And so I had a resistance. Very true. I had a resistance to running ads because I felt like it was like hypocritical. Disingenuous, hypocritical. If I were running ads, like obviously the messaging would have to change. I can't just say like, I do everything organically. It was like, I used to do it organically. Now we also run ads. So I had a resistance there for a long time, and I had an opportunity to shift my mindset. And I was presented with the opportunity and the gift to say, okay, but what if you look at it a little bit differently? And you see it as now it's just an opportunity for us to potentially get in front of more people who wouldn't have known about us before. And if you're truly in it for the impact and you truly want to make a difference and you want to help as many people as possible, then why are ads this like bad, negative thing? And that took me, you guys know, it took me a while to kind of work past that. I had a big resistance when we started ads. They weren't fun for me. I was very resentful of even doing them because I felt like it looked a certain way. I was so worried about how it looked. And then we started to lean into it and have more fun with it. And I started to recognize that like, no, this is actually amazing, even when people don't buy. So the $8,000 we spent on ads brought in, I don't know how many leads, a couple hundred thousand.
Yeah.
Like 1,000 or something, like a 1,000 people that we wouldn't have gotten in front of. That doesn't matter if they buy or not. It's like we have an opportunity for just even one of those 1,000 people to have a light bulb moment, to start believing in themselves, to start thinking that it's possible for them to start their own journey, even if they end up working with a different coach. It's like, that's the ripple effect, because now they're actually going out, they're taking action, they're putting up content, which is helping other people, right? That's the ripple effect of them helping other people. And it's like all because of an ad. Yeah. And then the same thing happened with affiliates, where we got to a place where our mentor for years was kind of like, okay, it's time to bring affiliates in. It's time to start with partners. Like you can grow so much organically, but there might be a cap as the industry is getting more saturated. And it's not a bad thing, but like there's kind of a limit unless you're actively really growing your social media accounts and your email list. There's sort of this cap. And so he presented again this different way of looking at affiliate partnerships, where we are also partners for other people. So we affiliate and partner for other people that we deeply believe in their products and their programs. And it's the coolest freaking thing ever, because now I'm sharing with my students, my audience, my community that I love, things that I don't teach. And it's like, hey, you can go learn that from somebody else who I know, love, and trust. And I know you're in good hands. And so now it's this, you said symbiotic before. I love that. It's like this interactive symbiotic relationship. It's this little ecosystem of trust. It's like the circle of trust from, what was that movie? The Ring? With
I thought it was.
Meet the Fockers. Like be a part of the circle of trust, right? Like it's like that. And now we have this like amazing ecosystem. And so again, your launches don't have to look like this right now. Maybe you don't want them to look like it ever, or maybe you're listening and you have a little bit of that edge. Like I had an edge. I had like a pride and an ego that came with how I thought about my business. So I'm just offering a different way to think about it. That's all.
Well, I wanted to say something about the ads that I think is so cool too, right? Because I think I kind of also had like that similar type feeling, where I was like in the middle, like that I was like, I want to run ads, but this is feeling hard. But again, it's not supposed to feel easy. It's going to be a little challenging and confusing. And there's definitely like a learning curve with ads. Like, I will not say it's like, oh, you're just going to start and it's like you understand it. Like it's a game. It really is. But there's two things I want to share here. One is that we had one of our clients tell us that she came in last year on day 2 of DBE Live, and she said that she learned more on day 2 of DBE Live than she did paying $5,000 in another program she was in, and she came through from an ad. And it's like, that's really freaking powerful.
Yeah.
And then I was learning more about ads recently, and someone mentioned like, there's a reason why all the big names in the industries are running ads because it's how you scale. Think about all these big companies that you see, especially during like the holidays running ads. Like, you think they're like,
Super Bowl.
yeah, like I think they're like, we don't want to run ads. We just want to organically reach everyone. Like, it sounds ridiculous when you say it like that,
Yeah.
but this is what letting go of like all of that is, and learning that it is just part of a system and it helps you to get in front of more people. And that's
Yeah.
it.
And for the
But-
person listening, go ahead.
Oh, I was just the last thing about the ads thing. It's kind of like for me, it's like this too, where it's not just about it. What changed for us was when we stopped looking at it as like how many sales came directly from the ads. Because if we are marketing through affiliates and organically, what I noticed, especially this launch, that I could actually track because we've gotten better with tracking was we had people come in organically or through affiliates, but then the actual purchase that they made was credited to an ad. Now, the reason that's significant is because it's not just about that example that Lauren just shared, because that's a great example of the person that had never heard of us, found us cold, and bought. That is more rare on a $5,000 product. However, those people are out there. You just have to get in front of them. But where ads are really important too is they act as reminders. So when you're in open cart week or open cart, however you do it, open cart month, day, whatever it's going to look like for you, if an ad is running, people are saying to themselves, oh man, so the team doesn't even know this, but we had 9 people who had this experience that I'm expressing right now. 9 who saw something on open cart week and said, oh man, that's right. I want to go buy that product. When are the doors closing again? And they bought.
Yeah.
And they may have purchased otherwise, but we know that they purchased because they saw the ad, which was a reminder for them, right? And then there's the thing that, hey, maybe the ad pushed them over the edge to purchase. And you don't know unless you take surveys and things like that. But what we do know is that a portion of our audience that purchased, they did see the ads. And that happens with organic too. You don't want to rely on on the algorithm all the time, right? Especially when you're in launch. So we target our warm audience too. And for those that don't know anything about ads, for our warm audience, it's basically exact like our email list and the people that follow Jess that engage with her page. We target those people. And you might say, well, why would you target those people? You can just email them, or Jess can put up a post on Instagram. But if you mess around with Instagram or even email, people don't open emails or read emails all the time. I do,
Or
but not
never. I'm like, I never open emails.
right. Jess has 44,000 alerts.
We're
I
like
have
all the
0.
whole spectrum here.
Right. And then the other part, Instagram, you know that when you put stuff up, say you have 10,000 followers or 100,000 followers, and you're like, how come only 500 people are seeing this? And and then you got a cat video that goes viral, but that's not what you're not selling the cat video, you're selling a product, right? So it's like, okay, well then let's target some warm people so that they know that our doors are open. I didn't even know you were launching, Jess. And you're like, oh my God, I thought I was driving my audience crazy with the Instagram posts I was putting up. And you're like, how did you not know I was launching?
Every launch that happens, I'm like, we sent 30 sales emails and I put up 1 million posts and stories and you didn't know we were launching. And we send text messages. Every launch that happens. And it's always such a beautiful reminder, like, oh yeah, people are busy. People have lives. People don't see your stuff. If they're not on when you post and it doesn't pop up in their algorithm, they're not seeing it. Something I want to say though is for anyone listening also, the way that I see business is really 3 tiers. And so when you're listening to this podcast right now, we're getting so into the nitty gritty. It's really tier 3 that we're talking about. So the way that I see it, Tier 1 is when you build it. So when you're building it, it's like you're figuring it out, you're doing market research, you're working on your messaging, you're putting out your offer, you're sloppy and messy, and you're just putting it out there. That's when you're building it. And then you enroll people and you're still building it. Right now you're building the course, building the membership. Then there's a second tier, which this is the most forgotten tier. People try to go from step 1 to step 3 and they forget about step 2, arguably the most important step, and that's optimizing it. So now that you have it built, you optimize it. And what does that mean? It's going in and it's editing it. It's looking at the DAD method. Am I going to delete it? Am I going to automate it? Am I going to delegate it? It's figuring out what is working, what is not working. What am I going to pour more gasoline on? What am I going to stop doing? Whether that's in your launch, in your program, in your content, but it's optimizing what's working. What are you enjoying? What are the clients liking? How do you get more testimonials? What do you do with the testimonials, right? And then the third level, where people usually go from build and then they try to jump to the third one, is scaling. So it's build it, optimize it, scale it. Most people try to build it, scale it, and they forget to optimize, and then it crumbles to the ground, and the scaling part falls through the cracks because they're actually not set up to be scaling yet. Scaling is when you're multiplying. So at that point, like, you're multiplying the team members, multiplying the departments, multiplying the clients. Yes, maybe multiplying the revenue, but with all of that, which sounds really sexy, also comes multiplying the issues that could come up, multiplying the complaints that could happen, multiplying the people that maybe
Expenses.
quit, expenses, overhead, right? Not everybody wants to scale. There's so many people that we work with that have no interest in building a team. I don't ever want to run ads. I don't want to think about doing launches like you do or having affiliates. You don't have to. And that's the coolest part when we do work with people. Some people are like, I literally just want to make an extra like $300 a month. I just want to help pay the bills, or I've got this, I have a 9 to 5 that I'm obsessed with. I make 6 figures. I'm happy with my life, but I also want to teach this thing on the side. And it's like, okay, cool. And then we have people that are like, no, I think I want to like go for it. I want to do this. I want to make it a thing. I want to have a team. I want to be leading people, so wherever you're at, just understand too, like, we're speaking right now from we've been scaling for the last few years. So this team has worked together now for 4 years. I'd say the last 3 of 4 years have really been focused on scaling. The building for me was 12 years ago is when I started, to 6 years ago when Empower started. Like, that was a lot of building, and we're still always building, right? Anytime we create something new, we're building back into market research, but like, that was so much building. And the middle period, which I would argue for all of us was probably the most challenging period, the optimizing time. I like, Lauren's shaking her head. I'm like, I think that was the most challenging time for us, was figuring out how to optimize. Like,
We were optimizing, and so when we talk about optimizing
Yeah,
and
we
scaling,
were.
not the whole company,
Yeah.
because we haven't nailed that at all.
Yeah.
I mean, at all yet, right? Like, we're working towards that. But we have optimized. I can confidently say we've optimized and scaled the Empower launch.
Yes.
100%.
And I feel like,
And it's taken us a while.
And ourselves.
yes. Yeah. I feel like building and optimizing is like vertical. Like, I'm like, I picture like building literally a building like vertically, and then scaling is like out wide, like more buildings on the block. So that's how I see it. It's kind of like,
It's like almost at the same time, right?
exactly. And that's the thing. Like, it happens at the same time. So that's why I think it gets really challenging when you are in that sort of like optimize and scale, because you're kind of doing both at the same time. And then with that comes like front end, back end. Because there's like, the front end is going to be like marketing, customer acquisition, content, all of that. And then the back end is like systems, team, customer experience. And there's like this dance between both, where you're like sort of juggling your capacity, energy, and focus from like one to the other. And if you focus on one for too long, then obviously the ball is going to drop on the other. So like, it's this weird, like, you should come to YouTube and see what I'm doing right now.
Yeah, right. Juggling your head. But we've kind of taken this approach where, as a company, we've turned off revenue sources that don't serve the life that we want to live, and we
Yes.
just don't want to do them, right? And that may have caused you can't look at your business and say, I mean, I know some people are going to disagree with this, but like, if you have multiple products at one time, and like, and the revenue is X, and you're going to take away some of the products, then like, the products that are left, they either need to make up for it immediately, or you got to figure out like how to make up for it, so that your yearly revenue isn't going down. But I wouldn't say that that's the definition of success
Right.
for the business. Now, yeah, you want it. So for us, we want to grow, but one thing that we can be really proud of is, if you look at Empower itself and the Empower launch, we have scaled it with coaches, more clients, revenue, profit. We've scaled it, right? And I know we're not at the level that we know that we can be at, and we're working towards that. But we can't say, like, if the revenue took a dip in the overall company, we can't say, oh my goodness, the business is failing. No. Because think about what we started off with, this whole conversation. What did you say, Jess? You were like, most of our effort goes into Empower launches. Like, we spend most of the time, we do most of the prep. And it's like, okay, well, obviously that part of the business is going to be the thing that is scaling and is growing, right?
Yeah.
Well, and with that, I wanted to say that the things that we took out of the business are the things that don't allow you to scale the business. And
Yeah,
so
great point.
in that moment, it's a pain, right? Because you're like, oh, I'm
Well, can you give
losing.
an example?
Well, like one-on-one coaching, right?
Yeah.
Like Jess decided, hey, you know what? In the long run, one-on-one coaching is not going to scale this business. And, you know, the energon cubes that go into the one-on-one coaching could be far better served in another avenue in the business that we can scale, that we can grow, and ultimately automate it so that there's less of the doing and more of like it truly is this system. And so I think that this year, that's really where we've gotten, is like smaller offer, medium offer, large offer, all working together. And that's the beauty of it. But there is this fear that when you take something away, that you're losing something. But it is that slow down to speed up metaphor. And also, that's what vision is, thinking about your future self in 5 years and 10 years. Are you going to want to have 40 one-on-one clients? You might not want that. And then you're going to be at a place where you aren't going to be able to take that away. So that's where all this like comes into play.
Well,
Yeah.
I love that. And I think Jess and I always talk about how the newbie has an advantage, especially if they're still working.
Mm-hmm.
We'll just call it a 9 to 5, right? Or if they have, support with their spouse or whatever the case may be, they have an advantage because they can start from the get-go doing things that will allow them to scale a lot easier,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because what we've seen over the years, now we've stayed in business, right? But what we've seen over the years is people either burn out because they're doing too much of the one-on-one or they're doing master classes every week. And like we've decided we don't want to do that.
Right.
We don't want to operate like that. We don't want to have a new offer every week or every month. And like, okay, I know that there's people making money doing that, but that's just not how we choose to operate. And if you're a newbie and you're just starting, you can build your foundation so that it's easier to scale.
Yeah. To
right?
support that
It's
future
okay
vision.
to have some one-on-ones if you need some cash, if you want to like be able to be like, okay, yeah, but I want to be able to afford, I don't know, Kajabi and Deadline Funnels and Webinar Jam and all these different platforms, right? Just to name a few. And or have a podcast. I want to have some revenue so that I can support those things. But like I would, if you want to have your whole business be one-on-one, that's fine. But if you don't and you want to be able to scale that to where it is unlimited, starting fresh is, I don't know. I just think they have an advantage because they can do it the right.
100%.
I don't want to say I was
Many,
trying to
baby, one
avoid
to
say
many.
the right way, but
No. It's not the right way. It's just you can build it for the vision that you want as opposed to what you need. There's a
Yes.
difference between like wanting and needing. And that's why when people do have, call it, like you said, 9 to 5 jobs, I'm like, oh my gosh, you are in the most unique, beautiful situation. Because even if you're unhappy at your 9 to 5 job and you have this dream of leaving it, it's like right now you're getting paid by somebody else. You don't have to pay them back. It's like a loan you don't have to pay back. So that on your off time and your free time or in the time that you make for it, you can work on this other side business or this cute side hustle or whatever it is that could one day turn into something else. So now you can make decisions for that business that you're building out of complete alignment, fun, flow, build your life first, your business second, as opposed to some people, if they burn the boats and they have nothing and there's no safety net, now there's a desperation, right? There's an energy of like, I have to make it work because you have bills to pay. And so now it's like a frantic energy that we put into the business where you're white knuckling your first offer that you're putting out, you're white knuckling your launch, you're putting so much on the line, you're making it so much mean stuff
And they
about
think it's a
you.
failure because 2 people bought, when in reality
Exactly.
it's a success.
Exactly. So it's such a cool place to be when you do have some other gig. And now we're totally going off tangent, but we've had clients who have gone all in on entrepreneurship and saw after a year or two, like, you know what? It's not where I thought it would be. I'm really stressed. I'm actually going to go get a part-time job. And it is the best freaking gift that they can give themselves, because the part-time job that they pick up pays the bills. And then all of a sudden the business takes off because they're making decisions from a place of, excitement and alignment as opposed to stress and fear. So sidebar, we've been talking for almost an hour.
I know.
No
Crazy.
way. It's like our
Shocker.
meetings.
I also just want to say one last point for the newbies, because I thought it was so good. I was in the Empower Facebook group today, and right now they're working through their like superpower statements and niche, ideal client, and all that. And clients tend to get like tripped up about it and needing to make it perfect. And for the newbies out there, like honestly, done is better than perfect. Like you just got to get past the perfection because it's holding you back. But Shannon, Coach Shannon, financial coach, she wrote, she's like, since I started Empower, I've had 15 different iterations of my superpower statement. She's like, just let it be 1.0 and know you're going to get to 15.0. And like, that's okay. And so everything you've heard here, if you are new, if you are intermediate and you're like, oh my God, this is insane, just take notes of where you do want to go. And you can make those goals for years to come. It doesn't have to be right now. And it's like slowly but surely you add into 2.0 and you add into 3.0 and 4.0
Wait, no way. Reps? Again, reps? Okay.
Hey,
Consistency?
hey.
What's that?
Time.
So good. It's so
Patience.
I just thought it was like so good. I was like, Shannon, that's so good, because it's just like we watch our clients do it all the time. And it's like, don't get tripped up. Just know you're on the way, but you got to get through it and you got to just do it. Ooh, that's good. Get through it and just do it.
Do you have, I think that's been coined already. The second part.
Oh yeah. Just
yeah.
Don't come
Same.
at us, Nike. Do either of you guys have a like favorite memory or favorite part of the launch?
Oh man. Gosh.
Do you, Jess, to kick it off while we think?
Well, I wasn't prepared for my own question.
Favorite part?
I was giving it to you so I could think.
I'll go first. I'll go
Yeah.
first just because I tend to just pick like the first thing that comes to mind. I think that the video was really, really cool. Putting that together and then like having that like in the studio, but
The
also
intro video?
Yeah.
the intro video for DBE Live, and then being in the studio all together for the second year in a row. But we were actually like in it with you, like watching you. And this year was like even more like boom, like wow. So I just think it was like really fun to do that and be together as a team.
Yeah. I love that. Shout out to
And
Rad House
you're like,
Studios. Rad House Studios here in Asheville. They were incredible. I do have one. If you don't yet, you still think time. So I think for me, it's part of like my favorite piece memory all tied to one. I love that we do like the big three. Those are the big three trainings. We do them in the studio with the Voom, and it's really fun and it's cool with the production. But then I love that all of the bonus trainings we do in the house, and Mike and I just set it up together and sloppy, in the living room or on the phone for a Facebook Live. We do it with like a whiteboard or flip chart paper. And I'm always in my slippers. The dog always makes an appearance, and I love that we bring the human element into it too. Cause like, we're just normal people working in the house, doing the thing. Like, we don't have all the tools. And so I love that we bring in like the different types of elements of training just to show people too, because I think it could be really intimidating when you do see someone who's using a studio and you're like immediately writing it off in your head as I can't do that. Like, I don't have the money for that. I don't want to do that. I don't like being on camera. So I think that's also important to lean into the things like I love, if you couldn't catch this by now, I love talking. I love being on camera. I love being on, podcasts. If you don't love those things, that shouldn't be the center of the business. There's other ways that you can do it. So I think for me, it's just being all the different aspects of kind of like what it looks like.
I have one more and it'll be quick and then you can go. The Facebook group, I am always so obsessed with. So like the community that we build in there, and this year it was like over 2,000 people. And honestly, like the energy that like I get from everyone being in there and just all the growth and interaction and what they're learning and aha moments, like that's always so powerful too, like as an outward thing, not just as the team. And I also always get sad when I close it out. I'm like, oh man, like I literally like shed a tear. Like I'm like, wow, it's over till next year,
Oh,
you know? So
yeah.
I actually was gonna say the Facebook group this year, the energy and the excitement that the people brought was just really cool. We always see some excitement and energy, but one of the things that we preach, obviously you guys know this, is that we want people, and I say this to the affiliates, and the new ones are probably like, yeah, okay, sounds good, Mike, but we really try to articulate that, look, our goal is for people to come to DBE. Our main goal is for people to come to DBE Live. And even if they don't purchase anything from us during that like few weeks, but they can walk away and say, that free training was better than all these paid trainings I've been to, all these things that I've paid for. I can't believe how much the team delivered. And when that happens, it just feels really good because it feels like, obviously Jess is the one presenting the material and for the most part creating the curriculum and the material and things like that. But it's really a team effort in terms of the vibe that we create for the people, the experience that they have. And that's why we called it DBE Live Experience, because it is an experience. It's not just
Yeah.
like this virtual event or like anything
Webinar.
else. It's an experience. And I feel like we heard that more this year, and not just because we had more leads or more people in there, I should say. The percentage was higher of the amount of positive comments, and it was interesting on one of the calls. One of your you called it the big three. One of your trainings, you shared some of the comments that people were making over the few days prior to that training, and someone commented in the chat and said, how do we know that these comments are, from this training? And Lauren and I are in the chat, and I said to them, I said, hey, great question. And I don't blame the person for asking the question,
Totally.
right? It was aggressive, but I don't blame them because there's a lot of shady stuff that goes on.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to them, I said, hey, when the training's over, go look in the Facebook group that you're in and take a look at some of the comments. These are screenshots directly from what real people are saying, right? And it was cool for me, because I run the affiliate program, to bring them back to the affiliate, all of our affiliate partners, and say, hey guys, I just want you to know that even if nobody purchases anything, I just want you to know this is what you led your people to,
Yeah.
right?
Life
This
so
is what you brought your people to. And this is the experience. And it's because of you that they're even here, right? And we can say, oh, it's because of an ad that they're here. It's because of Jess's organic marketing. And for me, it was telling the affiliates, this is because you brought these people here. And when you lead with that, instead of just, but we want people to buy something, the sales happen. So that's my soapbox.
Well, I mean that's it. We're done. I'm like, now I'm crying and here we are. So it doesn't take much.
It's true though, right?
It
I
is
mean,
true.
yeah,
It is 100%. You just lead with the impact. That's what we talk about all the time. It's service, not selling. It's giving, not getting, it's like when you change that from the perspective of what you're doing, and I'll round it out with this one. I had a question come up this morning in our Facebook group. There's a daily support thread where they ask questions and coaches answer. And I happened to catch this one. And someone said, I'm really nervous to go all in. Now we're already like, we're niche, we're superpower statement, we're good. Like we're jumping in. She said, I'm really getting nervous to go all in and build this thing because I realized as I was doing market research that a lot of my quote unquote competitors are giving away what I want to teach for free. And I said, yeah. And if you were to look at my Instagram, this one and my old one, which is where I built the entire business, if you were to look at my YouTube, listen to my podcast, everything that I teach in my paid programs has been given away for free in all of my content outward facing at some point. And if you were to look and see all of my quote unquote competitors are sharing the same information for free as well. And so I just brought this point up to say, number one, you're in the program, you purchased it. So even though you could have gotten it for free, you're here. And like, let's reflect on that. Why? And it comes up and it's like, well, I needed the accountability and I wanted the support and I wanted to be able to brainstorm and I wanted to be around other people because it feels really lonely. And I knew that if I was going to pay, that I was going to finally pay attention and take it seriously. And I wanted to shorten the amount of time it was going to take.
People hire trainers.
Exactly. Like I've been trying it by myself for so long. And that's when I brought in the example of it's literally why we go to concerts, right? Like we can listen to music on Pandora, Spotify, Apple, whatever, YouTube for free. But we buy tickets to concerts because we want to be in the energy. It's a vibe. You go with a bunch of people, you get dressed up, you get the food before. There's just an experience that happens when you pay to be in the room.
Everything in person is better.
Everything in person.
The only reason we do DBE live virtual is so that we can reach people around the world. But yeah.
I know we should have a live. We should do it like live for people that want to fly in. Have like a live audience.
One day.
That'd be so fun. So Tony Robbins, like in a stadium.
Even we have more goals and dreams.
Of course. And they're big and they're scary. All right. Let's put a bow on it because we can keep going. I hope this was insightful at some point. Like I think we talked about a lot of things. There were some tactical strategy things. We obviously said 100 times structure creates freedom, no matter where you're at in your business. We talked about being in the building phase, optimization phase, or scaling phase. And really, ultimately, this was just a conversation that we wanted to have with each other. We've obviously done our big debrief as a team together, but this was more like, well, let's bring it to our community. Let's bring it to our audience. Let's see, give them a peek behind the curtain a little bit. And I'm sure we could do more episodes and talk more about even like mindset stuff that, because it's a roller coaster for people. So any last words?
I'm going to leave it there because we'll keep going. So
Agreed.
Know when to leave the party. Awesome. Well, friends, if you loved this episode, hopefully you did, please feel free to take a screenshot, share it out on social media, tag me at I am Jessica DeRose. Let us know what some of your takeaways were. And I'm curious if you are interested in hearing more of kind of like the mindset stuff, even if it's not from the whole team, maybe it's just two of us, maybe it's all three of us. Let me know, shoot me a DM and let me know if that would be something that you're interested in. And Mike mentioned earlier, he had passed through some of the platforms we use and he had mentioned Kajabi, which is the platform we've been on now for almost 7 years. It's my favorite one-stop shop platform. It hosts our courses and houses our courses. It hosts our actual website pages. It also does checkouts so you can have payments come through. If you did want to run affiliate programs, they have opportunity for that. They actually have their own community that you can have there as well. And it's an email marketing platform, so you don't need to have something like MailChimp or something like that in addition. So it's a really great way to get all of the pieces and parts of your business living under one roof. And Kajabi was kind enough to offer us a link for you. We're going to drop in the show notes. So if you wanted to dabble and test it out, you can try it out for free for a month. And you can check that out. Show notes has the link. No harm, no foul. Go test around, play around, see what it offers you. Certainly it made my life a lot easier optimizing things when we brought
at a ridiculously low price for what it does.
I know. It finally brought all of our platforms under one roof. So really incredible place. We're huge supporters and advocates of Kajabi if you want to check that out. And until next time, friends, cheers to your evolution.
Bye.
Thank you so much for tuning in. If you loved this episode, I invite you to be a part of our ripple effect and share it with a friend. And please, if you feel called, take 30 seconds to leave a 5-star review, and I'll be forever grateful. Until next time, cheers to your evolution.